The tiny red light from the hidden camera flickered for just a second, in the corner of the smart speaker, right when I lit the candle on my grandmother's antique side table. That barely visible flash was the first sign that my only son, Jason, hadn't brought me a loving birthday gift when I turned 67, but rather the instrument of my destruction. My name is Margaret Sullivan. I've been a widow for 6 years, and I never imagined that the boy I carried for 9 months and raised with my own two hands, in this historic Victorian home in Charleston, South Carolina, would end up recording my every move to make me look insane and steal everything I own. But before we get into the story, please support us by liking and subscribing right now. I also want to say hi. Leave your name, city, and the word present in the comments. I want to know where you're listening from, even in faraway places. It all started the morning of my birthday. Jason drove down from Charlotte with a box wrapped in silver paper, and that smile that always made me feel like he was still the 8-year-old boy who hugged me after school. He hadn't visited in 5 months, always with excuses about work, important meetings, business trips. I, like any good Southern mother, justified every absence, kept his portion of pot roast in the refrigerator, and prayed for him every night. "Mom, happy birthday," he said, kissing my forehead. His breath smelled of beer and cigarettes, but I said nothing. "I brought you something special so you'll never feel alone in this big house." I unwrapped the gift with trembling hands, excited. It was an elegant smart speaker with a built-in digital photo frame, sleek and black, matching the antique furniture in my living room. The screen showed a photo of my late husband, William, smiling in front of our old bookstore Sullivan's Books, the business we built together over 35 years in downtown Charleston. "Jason, sweetheart, it's beautiful," I whispered, feeling tears sting my eyes. "How did you know I needed something like this?" "Because I know you, Mom. I know you miss Dad every day. This device has thousands of our family photos. They change automatically. You'll never be alone." He helped me place it on the side table, right across from the armchair, where I spend afternoons knitting and watching my shows. "Look, it also has internet connection and voice commands. I can send you new photos from my phone and they'll appear here automatically. You can even ask it questions, play music, set reminders." I got so emotional that I made his favorite breakfast, buttermilk pancakes with maple syrup, scrambled eggs, and coffee with cream. While we ate in the kitchen, I noticed Jason constantly checking his phone with a strange expression, almost anxious. His eyes moved quickly, as if reading something urgent. "Everything okay, honey?" I asked, pouring him more coffee. "Yeah, Mom, just some work messages." He put the phone away abruptly. "Hey, I need to ask you something. Have you thought about selling the bookstore? It's been closed since Dad died and it's just generating maintenance costs." My heart sank. "No, Jason. That bookstore is your father's legacy. Someday you'll reopen it." "Mom, I live in Charlotte. I have my own marketing consulting firm. I'm not going back to selling books." His tone became impatient. "Besides, this house is too big for you alone. You should consider moving into something smaller, more manageable." I didn't answer. Something in his look made me uncomfortable for the first time in my life. Jason stayed only 2 more hours, claiming he urgently needed to get back to Charlotte. He left, creating a strange emptiness in the house, different from the usual loneliness. It was as if he had left something watching me. Over the following days, the smart speaker became a constant companion. Images of William, of Jason as a child, of my deceased parents, slowly passed on the screen. But I started noticing strange things. Sometimes when I walked past the device, the photo changed right at that moment, as if someone was watching. Other times, I swore I heard a very soft click, almost imperceptible, when I talked on the phone near it. It was Frank, my lifelong neighbor, who saved me from the perfect trap. Frank Morrison is 70 years old, was a detective at the Charleston Police Department for 32 years, and has always had a special eye for suspicious details. He comes to my house every afternoon for coffee and pastries from the bakery on the corner. That Thursday afternoon, while I served the coffee, Frank stared intently at a smart speaker. "Margaret, when did you get that device?" he asked in a serious voice. "Jason brought it for my birthday, a week ago." "Why?" Frank got up and approached the device. He bent down to look closely, squinted, and finally took out his phone to turn on the flashlight. The beam of light revealed what my tired eyes hadn't been able to see: a small lens hidden in the upper corner of the frame, separate from the device's normal camera. "Margaret, this isn't just a smart speaker." His voice sounded grave, worried. "This has an additional hidden camera." The coffee fell from my hands and the cup shattered against the hardwood floor. The dark liquid spread like a prophecy of what I was about to discover. "Friends, every story I tell you is released every day. But YouTube will only show them to you if you tap the right subscribe button. Please do it now while I'm speaking. Tap subscribe, turn on notifications, and you'll never miss a story. Have you done it yet? Thank you. To understand how I arrived at that moment of horror in my own living room, I need to go back 6 years, to the day I buried William, and with him, without knowing it, I buried my ability to see the warning signs my own son was beginning to show. William died of a massive heart attack while organizing inventory at dawn. I found him collapsed among the stacks of books, his reading glasses still on his nose. He was 65 years old and the hardest working man I ever knew. Our bookstore, Sullivan's Books, was famous throughout downtown Charleston. Tourists lined up to browse our rare first editions, an antique book collection that William had curated for decades. After his death, I closed the bookstore. I didn't have the strength to continue alone. Jason, who was 29 then, convinced me it was for the best. Mom, you don't have to work anymore. Dad left you this house and good savings. Rest. You deserve to rest after so much work. It sounded reasonable. Loving even. But what I didn't know was that Jason had already started gambling. He discovered the underground poker rooms in Charlotte. Those dark places where they loan you money with suffocating interest rates. And where you can lose in one night what took you years to save. At first, the signs were subtle. Jason would ask to borrow money for investments that never materialized. $1,000 here, $5,000 there. I gave it to him without questions because he was my only son, my baby. The child I cared for alone when William worked dawn shifts at the bookstore. He never paid back a single dollar, but I never demanded it. That's how Southern mothers are, right? We give until there's nothing left. Then the visits became increasingly spaced out. He used to come every Sunday for dinner, but gradually the excuses multiplied. I have an important meeting. I have a client coming from overseas. I'm closing a big deal. I believed everything. I'd sit alone in this Victorian house with 4 bedrooms, cooking for 2 and eating for 1, watching the walls full of family photos remind me of what I no longer had. The house is from 1882 with high ceilings, wraparound porches, original pine floors and hard pine moldings. It's worth a fortune because it's in Charleston's historic district, 3 blocks from the Battery. William and I had inherited it from my parents and they from my grandparents. For generations of the Sullivan family had been born within these walls. But to Jason, it was nothing more than convertible cash. Frank witnessed my emotional deterioration silently. He's also a widower, lost his wife Patricia to cancer 9 years ago. We became mutual company during those endless afternoons, sharing coffee, memories, and comfortable silences. Frank had been my boyfriend when we were 16, before life took us down different paths. He married Patricia. I married William. But we always maintained a respectful and affectionate friendship. Margaret, that boy has abandoned you, Frank would tell me while we ate pastries. It's not normal for an only son to leave his widowed mother so alone. He's not abandoned, Frank. Jason is building his future. He's a successful entrepreneur in Charlotte. Frank would look at me with those detective eyes that see and know everything, but said no more. He waited patiently for me to discover the truth myself. 3 months before my 67th birthday, something changed in Jason. Suddenly, he started visiting more often, but his visits had a specific purpose. They always ended with talk about the house, about the closed bookstore, about how expensive it was to maintain everything. Mom, you look tired. Are you sleeping well? He'd ask with false concern. Yes, son, it's just age. Don't you forget things? Did you turn off the stove this morning? Did you lock the door properly? Questions that made me doubt myself. I started feeling like I was losing my memory, aging fast, becoming a burden. Jason planted those seeds of doubt with surgical precision. Now I understand he was preparing me, softening me mentally for the big blow. On my birthday, when Jason arrived with the smart speaker, I was completely vulnerable. He convinced me I was a useless old lady who needed help. That's why I accepted the gift without suspicion. That's why I thanked him with tears in my eyes. That's why I didn't even question when he said the device had internet connection so he could take care of me remotely. But when Frank pointed out the hidden camera with the beam of his phone's flashlight, all the puzzle pieces began falling into place in my head. Cold sweat ran down my back. My hands trembled as Frank examined the device with his ex-detective expertise. Margaret, this is worse than I thought, Frank said, turning the speaker around. It doesn't just have a front camera, it has high-sensitivity microphones. Look here, these tiny holes. Your son is recording you. The revelation hit me like a punch to the stomach. I sat in the armchair because my legs wouldn't hold me. Frank ran to bring me a glass of water and sat beside me, holding my hand with the firmness of someone who's seen too many human tragedies in his police career. Why would Jason record me? I asked in a broken voice. What does he gain from it? Frank took a deep breath. Margaret, in my 32 years with Charleston PD, I saw many cases of family fraud. Children record elderly parents to get evidence of mental incapacity. They edit the videos to make it look like the person is senile, can't take care of themselves. Then they presented to a judge to get conservatorship. Conservatorship? The word sounded medical, cold, lethal. It's when a judge declares a person doesn't have the capacity to manage their own property. They assign a legal guardian. And that guardian, who's usually the child who filed the petition, can sell properties, empty bank accounts, commit the person to a nursing home. All legal, all backed by a judge who only saw edited videos. The horror of what Frank explained slowly penetrated my mind. Jason hadn't brought me a gift. He brought me my living death sentence. He was recording me in my tired moments, when I talked to myself while cooking, when I forgot something or stumbled over furniture. He was collecting ammunition to destroy me legally. But I'm fine mentally, I protested. I'm not crazy. I know, Margaret. But with the right editing, any normal person can appear demented. A yawn becomes confusion. A thoughtful pause becomes senile forgetfulness. A conversation with yourself while cooking becomes hallucinations. Frank squeezed my hand. Your son is a monster, Margaret. And we need to act fast. Over the next 3 days, Frank and I became detectives of my own life. He, with his police experience, knew exactly what to look for. We carefully disconnected the smart speaker so Jason wouldn't notice we discovered its real function. Frank took it to a tech expert, a former colleague from Charleston PD who worked in a cybercrimes unit. The results were devastating. The speaker didn't just record video and audio, it transmitted everything in real time to Jason's phone. For 7 complete days, my son had been watching every move I made in my own house. He'd watched me cry in front of my prayer corner. He'd heard me talk to William out loud, asking him for advice as if he were still alive. He recorded me when I fell in the kitchen because my foot got tangled in the rug. But the worst was yet to come. The tech expert managed to access the cloud where Jason stored all the videos. We found meticulously organized folders: Mom confused, Mom talking to herself, Mom forgetful, Mom unstable. There were over 50 edited videos, cut to show only the seconds where I appeared disoriented. He's already got this prepared to present to a judge, Frank said with a tense jaw. Look at the creation dates of the folders. He's been planning this for months. Margaret, since before your birthday. I broke down. I cried like I hadn't cried since William's funeral. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was realizing that the son I raised, the child I carried in my womb for 9 months, whom I nursed, whom I comforted when he cried, whom I cared for when he was sick, had been planning my destruction with the coldness of a murderer. Frank let me cry. Then, with that commanding voice he must have used when directing police operations, he said, "Cry now, Margaret. Cry all you need. But tomorrow you get up and we fight back. I won't allow that bastard to do this to you." That night I couldn't sleep. I sat in the kitchen, drinking chamomile tea, looking at old photos of Jason in elementary school, at his first communion, at his college graduation. When did he become this? Where was the sign I didn't see? Was it my fault for giving him everything without demanding anything? The next day, Frank arrived early with a plan. I have a friend who's a family law attorney. I explained the situation without giving names. He said the best thing you can do is get ahead of Jason. If he's going to try to get conservatorship over you, you need to prove first that you're perfectly capable. How? Get complete medical evaluations, neurological, psychological, psychiatric. Get documents signed by certified doctors saying you're in perfect use of your mental faculties. Then, we confront him. But not alone. With witnesses, with evidence, and in a place where he can't hurt you. I followed Frank's plan to the letter. I got all the exams at the Medical University of South Carolina. The results were clear. Cognitive functions normal for my age, excellent memory, no signs of dementia or mental deterioration. The doctors even congratulated me on how sharp I was. While I collected my legal ammunition, Jason kept calling every 2 days, asking in a syrupy voice how I was, if I liked the speaker, if I was using it every day. I responded normally, revealing nothing, while inside my stomach churned with disgust. Frank investigated further. Using his contacts at Charleston PD, he discovered Jason was in serious financial trouble. He owed over $120,000 to illegal lenders connected to organized crime in Charlotte. He gambled everything on a bad poker streak at an underground casino in Uptown. The lenders had given him an ultimatum: pay in 2 months or disappear. Jason needed my house and my bookstore desperately. The plan was for a confrontation, but not at my house. Frank coordinated with his attorney friend for a meeting at a neutral, safe location. We had the evidence. We had medical proof of my competence. We had the video showing Jason's plot. But I still needed to see his face when confronted with the truth, to understand if any part of my son still existed beneath the monster he'd become. If you want to know how the story ends and discover many more, hit the red subscribe button. It's free and it helps me a lot. The confrontation was planned with the precision of a military operation. Frank coordinated everything to happen at his attorney friend's office, Robert Henderson, located in downtown Charleston. 2 blocks from the courthouse, it was mid-October, right when the city prepared for Halloween. The streets were already filled with decorations and tourists exploring the historic district. I told Jason I needed his help signing some papers for financial assistance, because I was having problems with the bank. It was the perfect excuse for a son waiting for any sign of weakness from his mother. He agreed to come immediately from Charlotte. The morning of the meeting, I dressed in my best navy blue suit, the one I used for important occasions when William and I had the bookstore. I carefully styled my hair, applied light makeup and put on my pearl necklace, the one William gave me on our 30th anniversary. I wanted to look impeccable, sharp, strong. Frank accompanied me to the attorney's office. We arrived 30 minutes early to prepare everything. Robert Henderson, a serious man of about 58 with thick glasses and formal manners, received us in his office. He already knew the whole story. Frank had told him every detail. Mrs. Sullivan, here's what we'll do, the attorney explained. When your son arrives, I'll ask him to wait in the conference room. You'll come with me to my private office. There I have evidence that my colleague from the cyber crimes unit prepared. WhatsApp conversations from your son that we managed to recover. My heart was beating so hard I thought it would burst from my chest. Jason arrived punctually, dressed in his gray suit that he probably bought with money he borrowed from me months ago. He had that confident smile, almost arrogant, of someone who believes they're about to win the jackpot. Mom, what documents are you signing? He asked, kissing my cheek. His breath smelled of mint, probably to disguise last night's alcohol. Bank things, son. You know, at my age I have trouble understanding these procedures. I acted confused, fragile, exactly as he expected. Don't worry, Mom. That's what I'm here for. To take care of you. The hypocrisy in his voice was like sweet poison. Attorney Henderson invited him to sit in the conference room while he reviewed the final details of the documents with me. Jason stayed there, checking his phone with that anxious expression he always had, probably calculating how much my house was worth, how much he could get from the bookstore. In the attorney's private office, Frank squeezed my hand. Are you ready? I nodded, though inside I was trembling. Attorney Henderson turned on his computer and projected the screen on the wall. What I saw destroyed my soul. They were screenshots of WhatsApp conversations between Jason and a woman named Brittany. Devastating messages. Jason, the old lady won't last a year in that nursing home. It's third rate. Once I get conservatorship, I'll sell everything and we'll move to Miami. Brittany, what if she resists? What if she doesn't sign? Jason, doesn't matter. I have 50 videos of her acting crazy. No judge will doubt. Besides, she's old and alone. Who's going to believe her? Brittany, how much is the house worth? Jason, about $1.2 million. And the bookstore, even though it's closed, the building is worth another $400,000. We're talking $1.6 million, babe. Goodbye debts, hello rich life. Tears rolled down my cheeks, but I made no sound. I kept watching. There were more messages dated 6 months ago, when Jason started this macabre plan. Jason, I already ordered the speaker with hidden camera on Amazon. Arrives in 2 weeks. I'll give it to her for her birthday. The old lady will be so emotional she won't suspect anything. Brittany, you're a genius, baby. Your mom won't even realize. Jason, she's so dumb. Her whole life was housewife and bookseller. She knows nothing about technology. She'll think it's a gift of love. Lol. That lol destroyed me more than everything else. My son was laughing at my ignorance, mocking my love. He called me dumb. Me, who worked 35 years side by side with his father to give him the best education, so he'd never lack anything, so he could study at private university. Frank hugged me. Attorney Henderson turned off the computer. Do you want me to continue, Margaret? Frank asked softly. There's still more. Messages where they talk about the nursing home they chose. It's on the outskirts of Charleston, a horrible place where they mistreat the elderly. No. I've seen enough. I dried my tears with a tissue. Now I want to see his face. We left the office. Jason was still sitting in the conference room, but he wasn't alone anymore. 2 detectives from Charleston PD, Frank's former colleagues, had quietly entered and were standing at the door. Jason went pale seeing them. What's going on? I sat across from him at the conference table. Attorney Henderson sat to my right, Frank to my left. The detectives remained at the door, arms crossed, serious faces. Jason, I began with a trembling but firm voice. Tell me something. When did I stop being your mother and become your business opportunity? The silence in the conference room was thick, heavy like the air before a storm. Jason looked alternately at the detectives, at Frank, at the attorney, and then at me. His brain worked fast, searching for an exit, an explanation, a lie that could save him. Mom, I don't know what you're talking about. What are these officers doing here? His voice sounded controlled, but his hands trembled slightly. Attorney Henderson opened a thick folder on the table. Mr. Sullivan, I'm Robert Henderson, family law attorney. I'm here as legal witness to this conversation. Also present are Detectives Williams and Rodriguez from Charleston PD, Cybercrimes Division. Jason swallowed. Color drained from his face. I'll get straight to the point, I continued, drawing strength from somewhere. The smart speaker you gave me has a hidden camera and microphones. You've been recording me for 7 days without my consent. That's a federal crime. Mom, I just wanted to take care of you. See that you were okay from Charlotte. His excuse came out quickly, probably rehearsed for this moment. Interesting, Frank said, taking out his phone. Then explain these messages. He projected the conversations with Brittany on the room screen. Jason saw the messages and his last bit of color disappeared. He turned green, literally green, like he was going to vomit. That's private. You can't read my messages. When you plan fraud against your own mother, your messages stop being private, Detective Williams said in a deep voice. They become evidence. I showed him the medical documents I'd obtained. Here are my neurological, psychological, and psychiatric evaluations, all done at MUSC this week. Want to read them? They say I have perfect cognitive functions, excellent memory, 0 signs of dementia or mental deterioration. Jason tried to stand. Detective Rodriguez took a step forward. Jason sat back down. You plan to get conservatorship over me. I continued with a firmer voice. You are going to present edited videos to a judge to have me declared incompetent. Then you are going to sell everything, my house, your father's bookstore, and put me in a terrible nursing home where I probably would have died within a year. No, Mom. I never. Shut up. My scream echoed in the room. I'd never yelled at him like that in my life. I have 50 edited videos of yours. Cybercrimes experts reviewed them. I have your conversations with that woman, Brittany, planning my end. I have records of your gambling debts. $120,000, Jason. $120,000 you owe to mob loan sharks. The mask finally fell. Jason stopped trying to deny anything. He collapsed in the chair, put his hands on the table, and started crying. But they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of a trapped man. Mom, they're going to kill me if I don't pay them. I need the money. Please, help me. Sell the house. Save your son. Manipulation until the end. Attorney Henderson shook his head in disgust. Frank clenched his fists under the table. Now I'm your mother, I said bitterly. When you need something. When your life's in danger. But when I was only useful as an object to sell, then I was a dumb old lady. Jason sobbed. I'm sorry, Mom. I was desperate. Save your son, you say? I stood up slowly. For 38 years I saved you. I saved you from hunger by giving you the bread your father and I sold with our own hands. I saved you from ignorance by paying for your private school. I saved you from failure by paying for your bad business ventures. And how do you repay me? By planning my living death, Mrs. Sullivan. Detective Williams intervened. We have enough evidence to proceed with criminal charges. Illegal recording, fraud, attempted theft. In South Carolina, these crimes against elderly persons have aggravating circumstances. We're talking 5 to 10 years in prison. Jason went even paler. No, please. If you put me in prison, the loan sharks will go after my family. What family? I asked coldly. Brittany, your accomplice. Because I stopped being your family the moment you wrote the old lady in your messages. Attorney Henderson took out other documents, Mrs. Sullivan, as we discussed. Here are the papers to completely disinherit him. I also have ready the documents for an ironclad will, where it specifically states that Jason Sullivan will not receive a single dollar from your estate. I signed everything. Every paper, every line. Jason watched me with a mixture of terror and hatred. The loving son had disappeared. Now I saw the real Jason, the man who'd used me his whole life. Also, the attorney added, I recommend making a public declaration before a notary that you're in full use of your faculties. That way, any future attempt by him or anyone else to declare you incompetent is automatically nullified. Do it! When we finished, the detectives took Jason to give a statement at the precinct. He left in handcuffs, crying, screaming for me to forgive him, that he was my only son, that I couldn't do this to him. I sat in the conference room long after they took him away. Frank said nothing. He just sat beside me and held my hand. Did I do the right thing? I asked in a small voice. Margaret, that man was going to destroy you. You saved yourself. 3 months have passed since that day at the attorney's office. Jason is under criminal prosecution. The evidence is so overwhelming that his lawyer recommended he accept a plea deal. He'll probably spend 18 months in prison and then be on probation. He paid the debts to the illegal lenders by selling his car and borrowing from friends in Charlotte. Apparently, Brittany disappeared as soon as she learned there would be no money. I'm still living in my Victorian home. The walls are still full of family photos, but I removed all of Jason's. Where his college graduation photo used to be, there's now an empty space I decided to fill with a photo of William and me the day we opened the bookstore. We were young, full of dreams, not knowing that decades later our only son would try to destroy everything we built. The smart speaker is stored in a drawer in the basement. I couldn't throw it away. It's evidence, the lawyers told me. Someday, when the trial ends, I'll take it out to the garden and destroy it with a hammer. It'll be cathartic. Frank and I have become inseparable. He comes every day, not just for coffee. He helps me with house repairs, with legal paperwork, with the difficult nights, when the pain of betrayal keeps me from sleeping. There's something blooming between us, something we let go when we were 16. At 67 and 70 respectively, we're rediscovering love, but this time with the wisdom that scars give. The bookstore Sullivan's Books reopened 2 weeks ago. I hired a young manager who knew William and learned from him. I supervise everything. I don't stock the shelves anymore, my body isn't as strong, but I'm there every morning at 9, drinking coffee, watching customers browse the rare books, feeling the smell that reminds me of my husband and the days when life made sense. With the bookstore's profits, I donated to a shelter for victims of domestic violence. I'm also working with Charleston PD to create an awareness program about fraud against elderly people. I want my story to help other mothers, other fathers, not go through what I went through. This past Halloween, I set up my memorial shelf as always. I put photos of William, of my parents, of my grandparents, but where I normally would have put something related to Jason, my living son, I put a photo of him when he was 8 years old. That child did die. The boy who hugged me after school, who helped me organize books, who told me I love you, Mom, before bed, that boy is dead. In the South, we say the dead only die when we forget them. But sometimes the living force us to forget them in order to survive. Jason forced me to bury him alive. He forced me to grieve someone who's still breathing, but is no longer my son. I'm learning to live with that emptiness. Some days are easier than others. Frank helps. The bookstore helps. Knowing I was strong when I needed it most helps. If you enjoyed the story, click subscribe and tell me in the comments what part impressed you. Do you know similar cases? What would you have done? There are more real stories tomorrow that will impact you. See you there. And remember, in this life, sometimes betrayal comes from where you least expect it, but dignity must always, always remain intact.